Hi, everyone. Welcome to SoDA Series Live. I'm Kristen Bell from the Strategic Development Team here at Adobe. And this is Tom Beck, Executive Director of SoDA. Hi, Tom.
Hey there, Kristen. Great to see you. Thank you, everyone, for joining today.
Yeah. We'll introduce our guest in just a minute. But first, welcome to each of you. We're super happy that you're taking the time to be here with us today. Please join us in the chat. Tom and I will be there in just a few. For those of you joining for the first time, SoDA Series Live is a collaboration between the Adobe XD team and SoDA, the Society of Digital Agencies. And each month we come together to bring you candid, in-depth discussions with agency founders and creative leaders from all over the world. In fact, today our guests are joining us from Stockholm, so super excited to have them. Our goal is to help you stay informed of some of the key topics helping to shape and influence the creative industry. SoDA brings some brilliant creative minds to this discussion. So thank you for that. And for those maybe not familiar with SoDA, Tom, would you just take a moment to share a bit about SoDA and the organization and its mission?
Yeah, absolutely. SoDA we're a membership-based organization for founders and leadership teams of digital design studios. We've been around since 2007. And our primary focus as an organization is to use the community as a way to support one another, help one another grow in kind of our knowledge of running the business, and create better agencies. And we do that through a number of programs and conversations and resources that we make available within the SoDA community. We have around 95 members that spanning 20 countries, and as I mentioned, we've been around since 2007. Adobe has been a partner of ours all throughout since the very beginning. So we're thrilled to participate in this series and to play a role in bringing these kinds of speakers to the creative community.
Yeah, well, thank you. We appreciate that too. I think others do as well. So with that, let's get started. So I'd like to introduce Talon Wadsworth. Talon is principal designer here at Adobe, and in fact, one of the founders of Adobe XD. Hey, Talon. I've had the privilege of working with Talon over the past year and witnessed his firsthand witnessed his desire and really passion to understand what is needed for designers from a tooling perspective and what's happening in the design businesses. So I think you'll see that passion come through in the conversation today, as well as all the previous ones too.
Oh, thanks, Kristen. It's really nice of you.
Thanks for being our partner in this, Talon. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
So Tom, would you do the honors of introducing our guests from SoDA?
Yeah, for sure. First of all, hi, Talon. Great to see you.
Hey, Tom. Great to see you.
Thanks for being here. And yes, it's my pleasure to introduce Ystén, who is the CEO and managing partner of Perfect Fools in Stockholm, and Mattias Mattisson, who's a partner and design director at Perfect Fools. So thank you both for joining us, especially it's early evening for you guys. So we appreciate you carving out the time to be here today.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Really nice to be here.
And before we get started, Kristen and I will drop off the camera in just a moment. But for those of you who've joined us, just a reminder, we will be interacting within the LinkedIn comments thread. So if you want to make comments along the way or ask questions, please do so. Kristen and I will capture those and get them to Talon and Mattias before we end the conversation. So look for us there. And thanks again for joining today. I'll turn it over to Talon. Have a great discussion today.
Great conversation.
Great. Thanks, Tom. And Mattias, thank you so much for being with us and staying up a little late to talk a little shop, as we love to do here with this series. So thank you both for being here.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, like Kristen was saying, like I really relished my role here at Adobe for the past 10 years. Just I didn't really realize how much I would love digging into this thorny topic of like how designers do what they do or how creatives do what they do, and let alone now having the chance to sort of talk to the creative leaders, really leading these founding and leading these digital agencies, particularly as we've transitioned over the last few years. These have been some of the best conversations I've had, of course, virtually over the past year or so. So I'm really excited to dig into it. So let's start with Perfect Fools. And you want to start a little bit with tell us a little bit about Perfect Fools, about the team and kind of what you do there and what you focus on, what your mission is there at Perfect Fools.
Actually, Perfect Fools was founded back in 2002, which was a weird time actually to start a digital studio, because it was the IT bubble in Sweden just had burst. So there were no money in digital back then. But then over the years, I mean, it's been a super successful digital production studio. I think we have, is it 16 Cannes Lions, which is a lot for a Swedish agency, that's for sure. The Grand Prix. But then, the business environment changed. And in 2015, we transformed into, I would say, like a lead agency for any type of clients that want change and want to try different ways of working. So since 2015, we're more of a full service agency, but still with digital and innovation as core. We still have both back end and front end developers, one of the best in the world, I think, and super good designers like Mattias, and who's been with us since 2008, I think, something like that.
Yeah. Starting to be
Time
part of the
flies, huh?
furniture. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a real broadening of the scope and sort of the agency, right? To go from just sort of strict, or like a more digital production focused shop to now really applying those skills in a more holistic way, right? Really working with clients all the way from the early concepts, like all the way through to production, really, and then it's like offering both of those services, both to the front end and the back end sort of services.
Yeah. I think it's a question about ambition. I think it was very difficult for the founders, and also I think for everyone who's working at Perfect Fools, to be in the back seat. We want to drive the car together with the client. We don't want to kind of just do whatever they tell us to do, because innovation has so much to do not only with how we communicate, but also what we communicate. So it has to do with product development and overall business strategy. So I think that's why we decided to transform to drive the car.
Yeah, it really maps with, I think, the broader trend of, like you're saying, like designers really saying, like, well, we can be a better service and maybe make some more money if we're there, from the very beginning, really helping, the client work through their problems and their challenges to then get to a solution, and not just be, a service oriented. Right here, we come in and we bring you in when we need execution done at the very end of it. So that definitely maps to even my own experience within the design world. In the Bay Area in particular, going from more of a production focused sort of environment into a more fully equipped, fully serviced, sort of studio. So yeah, really exciting. So Anne, how did you end up? Tell us a little bit about your backstory. How'd you
I'm 57. That will take an hour, but
we'll
give you the very short version.
Give us all these people tuning in, one to find out, these great sort of insights from you. Give us just a little bit of context for kind of where you're coming from.
Why I've ended up being at Perfect Fools for 7 years. Yeah, well, I have a degree in business administration and law, but I spent my entire career in marketing and advertising, both on the client side for Absolute Vodka, marketing director for the EMEA markets, etc. But many, many years as a client lead at big network agencies. And to be completely honest, the last 7 years in the network agencies, I felt, maybe it was a midlife crisis, I'm not sure, but it felt like, okay, I'm treating people like resources, not as human beings, not as the potential that they can be, because that was the culture of those agencies. So I felt like, oh, what did I do with my life? Well, I treated people like resources, and it was a process-driven thing. So I shifted careers and I went to nonprofit organizations instead. To kind of, I don't know, make up for everything. But then Perfect Fools contacted me, and Perfect Fools always, I think, in Sweden had the reputation of doing things differently. And the guys were very persuasive, and I said, well, I can go back if I go forward. If I can do this in a more human-centric way, if I can, do things differently. And during this time, I also had an education in creative coaching, and I was very kind of into, let's see what people can do if you don't whip them. If you rather, I said, I'm not a butcher, I'm a gardener. And the agency was not in perfect shape, but I said, if you want somebody to kind of be tough on it, I'm not that person. If you want something to grow, let's give it a try. And they were foolish enough to do so, and so was I.
I'm sure it has paid dividends. That's really fascinating sort of transformation and sort of the self-reflection in terms of your trajectory. And I mean, you know, I myself didn't end up at an agency because there was this reputation of really burning people out, where you had these really promising creatives, and they would go and think, well, this is the next ladder step in my career. And then they would go there and they would use them up, you know, and I had, you know, many colleagues coming out, many classmates who had those experiences and found themselves not doing design at all after that experience. So it's great that you recognize that and then really learn from that, and then have now turned that into, we'll get a little bit more into your practices around sort of a more human-centric sort of approach to management and creativity. But I want to turn over to Mattias here, because I feel like you've been a little underrepresented here so far. But Mattias, give us a little bit of your backstory. Tell us about kind of like where you came from and how you ended up a creative leader, you know, here at Perfect Fools.
Yeah, I usually say that everything goes from kind of like a slip on a like banana peel all the way in here. I don't know if it's kind of, but when I look back at it, it's not really in that way. I noticed, like, when I was thinking about like the history of how I ended up to doing what I'm doing, was that I was actually kind of designing or illustrating before I even knew what it was. So, yeah, way back when I was younger, I'm born in Karlskrona, south part of Sweden, and then there I was like illustrating a lot, and I was doing a lot of like designs without any tools. So it's kind of like with paper and cutting it out like the old school ways. So I don't know, it kind of like ended up there. So I just like kept on doing it, and I was like painting pictures, and I used my dad's has like what's called a writing machine, and I was like having the picture, and I put the picture in the right way, and I started writing, and like, yeah, text ended up real smooth. So yeah, that's kind of like where everything started, I think. But then I went to media school for high school. And I met like a lot of like really nice people, or like people that I was in class with, and like ended up to like being some kind of like creative cloud, kind of like a bunch of people with like a very creative people, mostly music, but yeah, they had like so many different skill sets that was like very good to combine. So I was kind of like doing, I started with like Photoshop 4, I think, in school, doing flyers and doing stuff for them when they were doing like the music thing. So I was like doing that, and I was making really old homepage styles way back. Yeah, and it kind of just grew out of that. I think I went to media school, and then I went to Hyper Island. It's a school here in Sweden, and yeah, globally now, but it actually is from Karlskrona, so it founded there. So it was kind of easy way for me to go there. Yeah. And yeah,
it's really fun. I mean, I think a lot of designers share that trajectory where you're just doing creative work, and you don't really know that you can have a career, you could make money doing this, right? That this is something that sets you apart in a way. So what is your role? Like, tell me a little bit about the sort of like how you've translated all that sort of creative work, and, you know, doing work for friends, and sort of doing those early like you know, sort of website pages, like, to your role now. Like, what are you sort of tasked with? How has your role changed and now, and what are you doing with Perfect Fools?
Like when I started Perfect Fools, I started at Perfect Fools for like maybe 12 or 13 years ago. So I've been through a couple of transitions myself in the company. So I started with design, and then art direction, and then I felt that I was always leaning towards like hands-on design and creating creating things. So yeah, that was, I don't know, I think it was kind of there everything. You grow as a person, and then you become like everything that has been like hard for me before was becoming more and more easy, and very very easy to like go back and lean on skills that you have been learning before. And I think it's just like natural to grow in that space into where I'm today. Yeah, and it's like, I think it's good to like we always try to like push on like always like steady curiosity and start to develop each other. And if I wouldn't do that myself, I wouldn't end up where I am now. I think it's like it's good to challenge yourself, and that is definitely what I'm doing with this position. I would say.
And it definitely seems, I think, and I felt very similar. You know, in the early phases of your career, you know, you're all about the work and really, you know, just throwing your all into it. And at a certain point, you sort of raise your head up and like, am I happy doing this? Am I working with the people that I want to be working with? Am I growing the culture that I want to be a part of? You know, I think that you're like, that's one of those things that, like, you know, once you sort of pick your head up from, you know, just focusing on the work, you really look around you and say, is this really what I want to be doing and how I want to be doing it? So, I mean, that definitely that really resonates with me. I think it's something I've thought about myself here at Adobe, and, you know, being part of this team, of designers, and essentially at Adobe, and like, how do I make this the place that I want to be and I want to work at, and make and grow that talent, you know, as you're saying, and that being that gardener in a way, definitely. It definitely tracks with, resonates a lot with my own experiences. So, you know, and, you know, going into that a little bit, you know, as you stepped into the role of CEO, you know, you mentioned this sort of the importance of having a very, you know, human centric sort of focus, right? And really recognizing each person as a unique sort of person and creative, and not, you know, just a resource, as you're saying. So tell us a little bit about that. How are you putting that into practice? What are some of the things that you're doing within your team and your larger organization to really help foster that kind of approach and really foster the talent there at Perfect Fools?
I think, first of all, we have been set up, or my ambition was to create a teal organization. I'm not sure if everybody knows what the teal organization is, but it's very much self-sufficient, self-driving teams. And what responsibility brings, what that does, the self-driving part, is that the teams feel very responsible for what they do. And God knows, because I came from a very traditional background, I had no idea what these guys were doing, honestly, when I started. So who was I to say, you should work this way? I was like saying, okay, guys, you're amazing. Let's try it. One of the funny stories was when I started, I interviewed each and every employee for an hour, trying to figure out what their skills were, and who they were as individuals and people. And one of the developers said, well, I know 7 languages. I think it was 7. And I'm like, well, doesn't Swedish and English suffice? Isn't that enough? He's like, we're not talking about those type of languages. And I was like, right, you know, who am I to say, you know, and I think that what's been fascinating over the years is that, you know, you see potential in people and you let them try new things. We have producers who become client leads. We have client leads who become planners. We have motion graphic designers who become art directors. We let people try, because as Mattias was mentioning, you know, well, I'll try this, and no, I feel more comfortable doing that, but I'll try something new in that position. And I think that's pretty much the way we function, and the way we do it.
And it's definitely like what you say there. Like if you try something, especially within the company, and if you go like to try out a certain what's called discipline, if you may, if you, like I did, go back from art director to design, I just felt that like the whole like helicopter view of the organization, of how everything works, that is just like made me richer in that way, to have like more information, like more to go on, and like you understand another problem in more depth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, I think people really respond. I mean, I've seen something very similar both in myself and in others. People really respond when you give them that responsibility. And you say, look, you're very talented at what you do. Here you go. Like, we're not going to, micromanage you. We're not going to dictate, sort of process or things that, like, I mean, there are things we have to go and do, but the wheel is in your hands, right? And people then, rise to the occasion more often than not, right? When they're sort of given that opportunity, because there's a level of respect there, right? That's sort of being given.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also think that we are our worst critics. I think that we're very harsh on ourselves, and I've always, throughout the years, always respected the creative side, because every time a really ambitious and good creative individual put his work on a table, regardless if it's an internal meeting or a client meeting, they put their heart and soul onto the table. And I mean, you truly have to respect that. And I think it's so important that we boost each other, because we think, I mean, I am 100% sure that we can achieve 2,000% more than we think we can. And somebody has to tell you that, because you are continuously telling yourself that you can't.
Yeah.
And if you're not doing that, then you're probably have some kind of diagnosis. But I think it's really, really important to tell each other. I'm sure you can. I mean, you're not going to fail. You can just try. Give it a try. That's fine.
Yeah, designers definitely are their own worst critics, and it is kind of the curse that comes with being a creative person, is that little seed of self-doubt, that both is the thing that helps you push into, that sort of, that realm beyond kind of what you're capable of, or it sometimes can hold you back. I know that's been a big an ongoing thread in my life as well as a creative. So
Yeah.
I mean, Mattias, what does this kind of look like from a day-to-day, this kind of like human-centric approach to the team and to the work that you're doing? Like, do you have any examples maybe that you could share of like the things that you're doing to support the team or to encourage the team, or, whether it's in the setup of how they work or it's in the space that you give them? Anything to share on that?
I think now when COVID hit, have been a different way of how you actually would like to work with it. But
Very true.
like I think if you have that thinking from the start, I think we handle it quite easy, or like with less friction, because we have that mentality. We had like me and the design team, we had like small talks instead of like meetings. So we kind of like had a call in to just talk, because usually that those are the things that you do between meetings. Otherwise, like now it have been so many, like, okay, you end the meeting and then like 1 minute later or like 30 seconds later just open up another meeting, and you are like in action all the time. Before it was more like you go from one place and like you fill up more coffee and you just talk a little bit, and so it's tried to work a lot to like get that small talk back. I think it worked really good, but also it's to talk to people and like showing them that you trust them, and that you believe in them, and that like we like what we are doing here is like we are trying to do our best that no one will fail, so everybody's backing up each other and stuff. So I think that is I don't know if that's like unique of doing it, but I think that is very important to be able to, and if something fail, we'd have to look back at it together and see where did we fail here, how can we like redo this in a better way. Like if you get a design sent back and like, okay, did we present it in a different, like could we present it in a different way, did we do all the homework that we needed to do for this thing? So it's just to be open with it and just talk a lot around it. And I think when you do that for a while, it comes easier. It's kind of like role playing. It's like really hard for the start, but it's like when you get better at it, so it's kind of like flows.
comes
Easy.
natural.
Mhm.
Yeah, to me, it says there's a real sensitivity needed, right, in
Yeah.
terms of creating the space to do creative work, to do work that is really, in some cases can feel very isolating, right? But it's that sensitivity, especially from a leadership perspective, to know like, okay, we aren't having those quick chats after a meeting. We're not having those coffee walks, that we still need to be aware that it's just not about getting the project done at the end of the day, but really having those moments to check in, to encourage, to give feedback. Like those are all things that need to happen, every day in those little in-between moments between the meetings, between the big client presentations, between the sort of end sort of delivery that need to be there to help the team kind of do their best work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's, a lot of what you're both saying here, and this sort of like, I want to bring up here a term that I love that Anne used in our first conversation, with this idea of an importance of creating this psychological safety, right? So Anne, I was wondering, for everybody sort of tuning in here, and I really love this when we talked about it, but can you kind of explain that concept a little bit, and sort of like what you mean when you say sort of creating a space for psychological safety within the team and the culture at Perfect Fools?
Yeah. I always believe that if you're going to do your best work and put your heart and soul onto the table, you need to do it amongst friends, people that you feel safe with. And I always felt that was so important, especially doing innovative work, because it's important to understand that innovation has nothing to do with failure, because it has to do with exploration. You try something and that was not the perfect solution, so I try something new. But it's a cultural thing that we think that we fail when we don't find that buried treasure under that rock.
Yeah.
And then Google did this research, I think it's probably 10 years ago now, called Aristotle. And they also identified that the most important factor for the most productive and innovative teams within Google was psychological safety. And it sounds, simple. We want people to feel safe. How do you do that? I think you have to work on it from a very strategic and ongoing perspective. And you need to really focus on not changing that, or because it's easily broken. If you start letting your own frustration out in a bad situation, it's, the psychological safety might be hurt. But we've used a number of different tools to do that. I mean, when we work with clients that are dealing with sensitive issues, like we have one client working on how to drink smarter. The team talks about their own experiences and drinking too much or alcoholism, etc., and you open up and you talk about those things. And also we have every Friday we have like the end of the week meeting. Instead of starting the week together, we start the weekend together. We have different topics and we have external people coming in and making speeches. But I think the most appreciated part is what we call what inspires me. And every employee talks for about 15 minutes about what inspires them. And then you become a human being rather than an art director or a designer or an account lead. You become a human being, and people have talked about the most funny things, right, Mattias?
Yeah.
Tattoos and cooking and really funny and interesting things. And all of a sudden, you become human beings rather than the role that you represent.
Yeah.
It's a glue. And I think that ethos has kept us sane during the last 2 years.
Yeah.
I think that like resonance together with like when it comes to be creative and to be able to create new stuff, and like if you're a designer, you need input, you need different input. Like you can't just hang on sites that only talks about design in your like specific field. You need to have like more input. You need to have different hobbies. That I would say, you don't have to, but like it's preferred. I would say to have something else than just the thing you're working with, because in that way you can like, I don't know, cross stuff really easy. Like the connections, you can easier find connections. Like we had so many people here that was that are music, working with music, and one just released album, like it was death metal album.
Cool.
That is vinyl,
That's great.
in vinyl, of course.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
So it
But
has a double function, with both
Mhm.
getting to know each other, but also inspiring everyone. So
Yeah.
it's cool.
There seems also like an element there, like putting work kind of in perspective, like putting the work in its place in a way, and saying that like, and I know that's something that I've struggled, and some of my other sort of colleagues and peers have, and sort of detaching ourselves enough, from the work to have a little bit more of an objective perspective, so that because when you're putting your creative self out there in those ways, your output, it feels very vulnerable, right? And especially when you're early in your career. And you have to kind of build up those, those calluses in a way to sort of like really hear and listen to the feedback. And so, yeah, those activities also seem like they would help you get a little perspective, and see that like the things that drive you is not necessarily just the work, but it's really all these other things that then inform the work, right? And really help kind of, again, sort of put work where it belongs. And so maybe you feel a little more an ability to take a little more risk, in there, because maybe the stakes don't feel as high as they did because you have this support network behind you,
I mean, we had this guy who just took a drone certificate because we had this, he's a designer. We had this project where we needed to take drone photographs, and everybody was so amazed and so impressed by him taking that the drone certificate and getting some really cool shots. And I think that's when you feel like you can, do something that is out of your safety zone, and grow with that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and
Mattias,
definitely.
yeah,
Yeah,
go
sorry.
ahead. No,
No,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. Okay. Yeah, but I would say like that is also without outside of the range of your expectations also, because usually uh, you can challenge yourself or like push yourself within the expectations of what you are supposed to deliver. But I think it's very interesting when you go outside of that and just like, oh, we really want to control the content that we want coming out, and like drone driving is fun, so let's combine these, because either we buy this service or we do it ourselves and go for a road trip and have fun. And like, yeah, they were out with a car like around Sweden and doing drone shots, and yeah, they came back like much tighter as a team than they were when they left. And I think that is really interesting too, like to do stuff together and to manage to create something together, and that kind of like builds the bond much more.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And in fact, one of my projects, sort of at Adobe in my 10 years here, has been, growing the culture of the Adobe design organization. And one of the things was giving like a group kind of creative outlet, right? Like something that we did that, was outside of our day-to-day work, but was still a creative outlet for things that we were passionate about. And I created this little trading card series where I would have someone on the team illustrate another person on the team. So, and even if they had never like done it before, they could sort of, we used illustration very loosely, but they had to sort of take their, their creativity and employ it, not for the client or not for the, the sort of the larger product teams, the customers that we're sort of doing, but for each other. And then at the end, we would print them all up and then hand them out at our all hands meetings, so everybody would be sort of surprised to see like, oh, like, my good friend over there who I've known for years, like they did something really meaningful, and I could hold it in my hand as a little trading card, and it really brought the team together and gave them this creative outlet, this place that like they could put their combined energies in together. And then it just made everybody feel good and feel better about their work. And as you were saying, Mattias, it really did inform the work, right? Like being involved in work, things outside of your day to day can really help inform your work. And I think we were all better for it. And we were a better team for it, So yeah, I really love that. All right, so I want to sort of like switch gears here just a little bit, because this is really fascinating to me. So you're talking about kind of innovation, and I think in your case, innovating in how the team works and operates. It looks like you mentioned that during COVID, you opened up the opportunity for anyone on the team to become a partner, in the business. Tell us a little bit more about that. What was the inspiration behind that, and then how did that go?
I think because I think the danger, to be honest, with having this psychological safety and getting really truly know each other, it was super tough when things were going the way they were going initially during the pandemic to say, well, sorry guys, we need to let you go, and there is unemployment out there. That did not feel like the best solution for this family. So rather than doing that, we did a new emission saying that, okay, everyone who wants to can buy shares in the agency, and more than, I think it's 60% of the employees that took their own money and put it into being partners in the agency. And that took us out of that black hole that we were in initially during the pandemic. And it felt like such a good solution, honestly. There's, all the partners, we had a partner meeting last night, actually, are so committed, and we work in groups with different topics than what we normally work with. So we have creatives working in the financial stream. We have producers working in the cultural stream, and topics like employer branding. How do we work with the schools, and how do we become an even more attractive employer, etc. So there's a number of work streams that the partners are working in, and also I think honestly it is also something that our clients appreciate. That we are a very humanistic and an agency built on solidarity, and that makes us stand out, especially I think from the big network agencies, and that's something that I think clients are appreciating.
Yeah,
and also, it's
back,
a kind of commitment from the people working here.
Yeah, for sure. And it goes back to that thing you said at the very beginning, that real motivator for you to leave the agency world, to stop seeing people, as a resource, right?
Yeah.
And that really seems like that's the seed of that idea, of saying, well, you're not just a resource that we're just going to sort of, let go because, this is a tough time for all of us. Really giving them the opportunity to again, like, recognize that, like, well, they have goals and motivations, and if they believe in this, then they have the opportunity to sort of give back to it in that way. I would as a client, I would choose an agency that did that rather than just sort of like staffed up for project, and then when the project was over, just like let everybody go. Like, that's not building sustainability. That's not building something they can build a real true foundation on, or a real relationship on. So
it's about responsibility and ownership and commitment, and I think that is something that clients appreciate as well.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I mean, so on the role of innovation, we're going to just go back to more of the designer side here. How do you go about fostering that innovative sort of approach to the culture of the team, or to the projects that you're working on, and the things that you're doing? Like, what does that look like for you? How do you do that? From as a leader within the company.
Yeah, I think. I think it's very important to be open for ideas. Like we have kind of like a flat hierarchy when it comes to that. We have so many things that comes from, like, we have a developer that we were pitching actually for a client, and one of the developers were like, I just saw this. Maybe we can do something with our, what's it called, like the Xbox. The one that recognizes body movement.
The Kinect.
Yeah, the Kinect one. So maybe we can hack the Kinect that we have here and make like a dance video for for the client, and then we actually had that with us into the pitch. I was the one that had to dance for the dance, like like a big table of people, and I was standing there dancing. But it was like, yeah, that idea came from a developer, and it kind of like became one of the strongest ideas in the pitch. And that also, what happens then is like when that idea comes through, the developer has so much energy going into it, and like vice versa. So it doesn't always come from like the art director copywriter team, and they deliver it back, and then they deliver it forward and forward and forward, especially when we have the production all way production in-house. You really need to be able to go back and forth, and like no one is actually owning the ideas in a sense. Yeah, so I think it's in that way it's very, very good to have it like the innovation, like the innovating spirit in the DNA. So everybody has like, if the idea is good enough, we just run with it. It's and we have so many, like I'm so happy that we have like so many good developers. That is, we don't have that many, but they are really good. So yeah, it's like usually I always say when we meet clients, like there is nothing that we pitch or that we say that we want to do that we can't do. Because we, like, usually it's like, okay, we have this very fussy cloud of an idea, and then we go back and like, oh shit, now we need to produce it as well. But yeah, usually like they are just like one step away, and you can just ask them and like, can we do this? Would this be great? It's like, yeah, we could do this, and we could add this extra level. So yeah, definitely the DNA. Yeah, Amit, our head of production, made a like music experience, just trying out Unity and like a, I don't know, OP or something it's called, like a teenage engineering tool. So it was connecting the computer there, and all of a sudden we had like this music experience. And that was just like he got inspired of other like developers and stuff, and it's kind of like it's contagious. I think like, when it comes to, I want to do something really techie idea as well, and then yeah, all of a sudden it pops up.
Yeah, I mean, like I think people can talk about innovation or like all these different things in a very cliched way, but I think what you're really saying is in creating this culture of openness, where rather than being this waterfall process where the people interfacing with the clients or the sort of like art directors are sort of throwing the the thing over the fence and saying, all right, team, now it's you need to go execute on this. Really saying like, no, this is how can we utilize everyone on this team to find the right solution, to find the potentially game breaking or innovative solution for the client. Yeah, no, that really comes back to, like I said, like building that trust and that openness in the culture really pays off in those ways. So yeah, definitely. So we've all had a really tough year here with the last year and a half. We're still in the throes of it in certain ways. How do you transition from this? I mean, we were all sort of forced into this world. How do you see yourself transitioning into this next phase for Perfect Fools? Is everyone back in the office? Are you going to more of a hybrid approach? Like, how are you thinking about leading the team kind of again out of at least the first year or so of COVID?
I think it's we're doing it the way we always done it. We try and we explore. We don't fail. So the exploration right now, we had right after the restrictions were lifted here in Sweden, we all met up in the archipelago and had a great discussion on how we wanted things to be going forward, both when it came to working in the office or working from wherever, or also what we wanted the office to look like and function when we come back.
Yeah.
So we're trying. Right now we're trying with mandatory to be in the office Mondays and Fridays. We start the weekend together because it's important that we all meet sometimes. But interesting enough, there's more and more people coming in Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday also. But that's all up to them. And we are redesigning the office, making it more like a playground, I would say. Because we realize we probably don't need all those meeting rooms anymore, because a lot of meetings will continue being digital. So we're trying, exploring, and then we talk about it and decide what we want to do. You can be completely transparent, Mattias. What do you think about Mondays and Fridays?
Yeah, I like as you said, it's good to try out and to know where, like, what is the best way. I think it's good to start Mondays and like to do the meetings that you need to do, and like to meet like the team, and then run off. It totally depends on where you are in a project. If you like, especially design, like if you want to dive down, like usually like you have your headphones and like in really cranked up space, and just sit there and don't want to be disturbed by it, and then it's easier to be at home. And I would say, like, what's it called, like the family puzzle, I would say had it's depleted, I would say, when it comes to like be able to have that space and freedom. I've done sometimes like work half day, and then during lunch I take my stuff home and keep on working, and then go to school, pick up the kids, and like get back on it. And I think it's like I think it's everybody showed that the responsibility is there. And I think that was like a thing that people were scared of before. It's like, oh, if we just have everybody elsewhere, how can we control them? It totally proved that people can do things on their own, and like on their own time. It's just proven that theory was wrong. I would say.
And as you're saying, like creating that space to maybe have some more of those interactions, like we all are missing, and just walking and getting the coffee, but also, let's say, like still having that trust in everyone, and giving them the responsibility. And then, more often than not, they're going to rise to the challenge, right? They're going to rise to the challenge and really do the things they need to do to be successful and to make the company successful. So that's really great. Well, cool. I was here at the end. We don't have 15 minutes to give to all of us to sort of share the things that are really inspiring us. But I always like to sort of end the conversation. Even though it's not a Friday. It's not in your world. So, but I always do love to bring in some of that again, because Mattias, as you recognize, like the things that inform our work are much broader than the sort of focus or goals of the day-to-day work. So I just want to throw it out there. What's inspiring you? What's exciting you in terms of, the sort of creative world out there? Could be about design, could be really about anything. What's keeping you inspired right now?
Yeah, I think I would say now I've got the teacher's bug. I started to do lectures and teaching, and I didn't know that you need to, like, especially when you like you're talking to students that are in your segment of knowledge, then you need to know what you're talking about. Like, so you definitely like really need to back the stuff up, and there's so many processes that I'm teaching that I'm like have brought back to the company as well. So I think that is really good. And also like the whole thing becoming a partner kind of activated me in a way when it comes to like trying to build a culture and stuff. It has always been there, but it has been like a little bit on someone else's responsibility, and now it's kind of like different.
It's like skin in the game now.
Yeah. Now I'm invested now, so yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating. That's one of the cool things that I really enjoyed about being at Adobe, was being able to sort of like break down and think about process. I mean, I'm doing it to sort of create UI around that, but you're doing that to inform, the process of your students, and how instructive that is to sort of take that step back and really think about what you're doing it and how you're doing it. It leads to lots of really great insights. So I'm sure that the team is benefiting as well as your students in that.
Yeah, but we also trying to push to, like, I always say that I'm from the school of reverse engineering. It's kind of like before back in Photoshop 4, like you didn't know how people were doing it. Like, you didn't have the YouTube videos of tutorials and all that. You had a teacher that you kind of we kind of passed our teacher quite fast in creativity and in skills, because we were really interested in these tools, and so you had to like reverse engineer how to do that. Like how did someone do that awesome thing? And then you have to like go backwards and try to do it yourself. And I think that is like it's always like that now when it comes to people launching design systems. That is like the answer to all design ever. I love it when they come, so I can just like try to break them a little bit and try to make them on my own. I think it's that the whole thing is like nothing is perfect. Like everything is better when you add your own like stank to it. I would say like everyone is flawed, so when you add your flawed, it kind of becomes you a little bit more. I think like especially like when music comes, so you have like these artists that they almost can't sing, but like that makes everything so good. Because it becomes more like soul, it becomes more soul and more like something different, not perfect. And I think that is what people are searching for more than the perfect photoshopped face. Yeah, you can totally see it now when it comes to models out there. Like if you have something weird, it's actually something that becomes more attractive as a model.
Yeah, that wabi sabiness of of things out there. That I agree with you that iterative process or that interpretive process can oftentimes like lead to its own sort of innovative sort of results, right? When something's been taken and translated through a different lens or a different experience, it comes out the other side fully transformed, and that's exciting. I totally agree with you.
I like to cook a lot, so I just take pictures and look at pictures of food, and I imagine what it is. I have no idea what it is. Like how I know it's chicken and rice, and I know, but I don't know how they made it, and I don't know how it tastes, but I can like imagine like how it tastes. So I try to add it, and cooking is really good when it comes to like that, oh shit, that was too much salt, or that was too much spice in it. Next time I'm going to do it better and better and better and better, and all of a sudden you have a masterpiece. And I think that is how like every like innovation thing works. It's time usually.
Totally. So and what's inspiring you right now? Let's go over to you. What is keeping you sort of like your creative batteries charged right now?
I'm battling between one very unserious one and one very serious one.
We like them both. Unserious. Let's go unserious.
Unserious is the way Victor Hovland is playing golf, which only golf nerds like myself understands. He's a very smiley Norwegian guy who can handle any challenge because golf is a very complicated game, and he just smiles, which is amazing. But the more serious one is actually I think everybody knows Avicii, the big Swedish superstar who unfortunately took his own life like 3 years ago. And his parents have started a foundation called the Tim Bergling Foundation. That's his true name. Avicii's true name was Tim Bergling. And they're doing some truly innovative work with young people's mental health. And we're partnering with them on a project that is truly inspiring with educational material for schools. And it's when communication truly makes a difference, that's what inspires me the most.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's great. I can't wait to see that project when you've got it all wrapped up. I'm sure I'll keep an eye out for it. And
one of Mattias's designers is doing all the illustrations for that.
Oh, no, I'm nervous.
Proud of it. Yeah,
right.
That's so cool.
Can't wait to see it. That sounds great. Well, thank you both so much. Like I said, like there's no better way I like to spend my morning than talking with two sort of talented creatives like yourselves, and really learning from you, and just being able to sort of get into it and talk talk a little shop. So thank you all so much. We're gonna bring Kristen and Tom back on here to sort of wrap it up. But appreciate you both so much. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you all. And Talon and Mattias, a great conversation. I don't know, for me, I felt just in listening to you, the psychological safety that you've created with your team and just being able to be that open and vulnerable on screen with others. Yeah, it was just really, really nice.
Yeah,
I took
absolutely.
a few little nuggets away from that myself.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Anne and Mattias. It's such a soulful way that you operate the business and work together, and it's very inspirational for all of us. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for being with us today.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Hope those of you who joined enjoyed the discussion as well. Thank you. And yeah, join us for our next one. We're going to do something a little bit different in December. But on December 9th, same time, 12 noon Eastern time, we are going to have a panel. We're going to talk a little bit about kind of a retrospective of the year, as well as learn a little bit more about what creatives are looking forward to in the coming year. So join us for that. And we'll look forward to seeing you then. Thanks,
Thanks,
Tom.
everyone. Yeah, thank you,
Thanks,
Kristen.
everyone, for
Thank
joining.
you, everyone. Have a great day or evening wherever you're calling in from. We'll see you in December.